Welcome back to the program. Good to have you. Bill Michaels Show continuing on. And, well, you know what? The Badgers, they've got a new head coach. It's going to be made official later on this afternoon. But nevertheless, we're kind of excited to, have Luke Fickell take over the program. I know from day one, when we started talking about the possibility, I said, if there's an outside chance of getting him, you got to look in that backyard. We all assumed Jim Leonard was going to be the guy, but nevertheless, didn't materialize that way. And now they move on, and they introduce Luke Fickell later on this afternoon to talk more about that. Luke Fickell, the University of Cincinnati program, and what to expect. Our buddy Mo Egger from ESPN Radio down in Cincy is joining us on the hotline. Mo, how you been, pal?
I'm good, Bill. What's up?
I'm good. I was reading a lot of the comments and seeing some of the television last night. Fans really disappointed that he did not stick around after signing the contract extension this past year. But, for whatever reason, he thinks Wisconsin is the destination program. It wasn't Notre Dame. It wasn't USC. It wasn't Michigan State, but Wisconsin is. And so tell us, I guess, what to expect when Luke Fickell walks through the doors later on today.
Getting a real fine football coach. Look, he is, for my money, and I think most would agree, he's the greatest coach that the University of Cincinnati has ever had. What he did here, I don't think you can understate, sort of the bottoming out of the program that went down before Luke got here, and B, really what he was able to do, certainly in the larger context of this school's football history. I mean, you know as well as anybody, Bill, what UC football used to be, what Luke Fickell turned it into. And look, there were obviously a lot of coaches before him who did some great stuff, but Luke built upon that and then stayed. He was here for 6 seasons. Comparatively speaking, Mark D'Antonio was here for 3. Brian Kelly was here for 3. Butch Jones was here for 3. Those are coaches who each had certain degrees of success, but bounced after 3 seasons. For Luke to stay at the University of Cincinnati for 6 is pretty remarkable. And for him to achieve the level of success, look, I was of the many who thought that no Group of 5 school was ever going to play in the college football playoff, and yet there they were a year ago. I do think it would be fascinating because you talk about Luke looking at Wisconsin as the destination job and not Notre Dame, not Oklahoma. It's a little bit different set of circumstances this year as opposed to where we were a year ago because Notre Dame was interested. I think Oklahoma showed some interest. Luke was not leaving his team last season. He was not leaving after the conference championship game. He was not going to put his players in a position where they could play for a national championship with the uncertainty of who the head coach was going to be. He wasn't going to leave. And so I think it would be fascinating to see what would have happened had the Notre Dame job been open this go around, or the Oklahoma job been open this go around. Fortunately, I think for Badgers fans, neither was. Wisconsin had a gig that was open, and I think most importantly, the Bearcats weren't playing for a national title, and so it turns out to be a pretty good marriage.
The recruiting side of things, that's where a lot of people are excited. He's been able to get talent, and obviously when you start to look at the Georgias of the world and other teams that have put top-quality talent into the NFL, he's been a guy that's found talent. He's been a guy that's been able to feed the pipeline for the National Football League via the draft. So talk about the recruiting side of Luke Fickell.
Well, it's a little bit different here because the previous regime, Tommy Tuberville was here for 4 years. And I would talk to high school coaches, and you know how good the high school football in this city and this general region is. You know how many really good, talented young players are in this area. And you would talk to high school coaches from some of the best schools in the city, and they would say, yeah, I've never met Tommy Tuberville. That staff all but ignored this part of the state and this part of the country. Luke Fickell took the job and said very transparently, I'm going to recruit Cincinnati. I'm going to recruit Southwest Ohio. We're going to draw a 300-mile radius. We're going to call it Bearcat Nation, and we're going to go after the best players. We are going to go after some of the same guys that Ohio State is going after. Kentucky for years was doing really well recruiting this area, Louisville as well. Luke Fickell came in and said, we're going to get some of those guys to come to Cincinnati. Obviously not all, maybe not even most, but that's what we're going to target. I think moving forward, what's going to be interesting, first of all, I don't think Luke Fickell is done recruiting Cincinnati. And so, we've talked about what this is going to mean for UC. Well, now you got to find somebody who's going to be able to get players to not go to Wisconsin with Luke Fickell and stay at home here in Cincinnati, on top of out recruiting Ohio State, Kentucky, Louisville, Michigan, et cetera. And then the other thing is, is he going to start recruiting your part of the country more heavily? The reality is he built this program. He did a very good job of taking the players he inherited and coaching them up, and probably exceeding everybody's expectations with those players. But the reason why this program has had a sustained level of success over the past 5 seasons has been the outstanding recruiting that he has done. He is a great recruiter. He obviously has ties to the Big Ten. He's got ties all over the Midwest. And so it's going to be interesting to me to see how that continues with him moving to a different part of the country, but not an entirely strange part of the country for him.
By the way, we're talking with Mo Egger, ESPN Radio in Cincinnati, at Mo, M-O Egger over on Twitter. So let's talk about the likability side. The thing, and I'm getting this last night, I was texting you, I was texting some friends. They say, like, everybody loves this guy. There's not a negative thing you can say about him. Sure, coaches get criticized for in-game management and such, but as far as the likability factor, the booster factor, and just being a available factor, people love this guy.
Yeah, I think that's why if you ask most UC fans, they're wishing him nothing but the best, right? This was a guy who won, and you didn't have that, film of sleaze that you often have to kind of ignore. He's got 6 kids. He's a devout Catholic. He's very much a family man. He's into football and his family. Guy will tell you he doesn't have a lot of outside interests. It's ball and his wife and kids, and that's pretty much it. Look, he's a serious guy. And to me, I'll never forget, after 4 years of the Tommy Tuberville clown show, I remember Luke Fickell's introductory press conference thinking, this guy is the exact opposite. This guy's all business. Different settings. With Tommy Tuberville, it was like watching, a comedy hour in the Catskills. All he was missing was a rocks glass with a cocktail, and sometimes the conversation would be about anything but football. With Luke, entirely different, exact opposite. Serious guy, down to business guy, not a bad guy, not an unfriendly guy by any stretch, really, really good guy. I also think a guy who, he had that season at Ohio State. He was thrust in the position of being Jim Tressel's replacement on an interim basis in 2011, and it did not go well. And I've listened to him be quite reflective about what he learned during that season, the things that he did poorly, the things that he would do differently. I think he really applied that to, what he did in his first real head coaching gig at UC. There's really not a lot to not like. In fact, I would say, somebody asked me this morning, well, what's his biggest fault? And I said, I don't know that I would say this is a fault. I would say it's a characteristic. I think at times he's been maybe a little bit too loyal. So I'll say this, if you're a Wisconsin fan, whoever Luke picks to be his starting quarterback, prepare for that starting quarterback to be the guy for the long haul, because he's just not going to make these quick trigger decisions based on impulse, based on what outsiders want. And sometimes that's great. Sometimes that frustrated a lot of UC fans, I think in particular this year. But if that's your biggest fault, loyalty, maybe being overly loyal, talking about a pretty good dude.
So let's talk about in-game management. Give me your thoughts, play calling, offense, defense, schematics, kind of taking strengths away from other teams and or finding weaknesses and such.
Well, I think the first thing that stands out when you look at his tenure at UC, he benefited from, and the program benefited from, insane coaching continuity. I mean, you think about this. They went into the season last year with the same coach, offensive coordinator, and quarterback who had been together for 3 double-digit win seasons. They had the same defensive coordinator for 4 years. Obviously, Marcus Freeman, now the head coach at Notre Dame. And I think Luke benefited from that. He is a guy who is very much going to let his coordinators coordinate. Obviously, his fingerprints, he's a defensive guy. He's a former defensive coordinator. His fingerprints are going to be all over the defense. They played at Cincinnati for the most part a 3-3-5 scheme, which you see a lot in today's college football. I think from an offensive perspective, they've been good. I think if there was a criticism of them offensively, as good as they've been, and they've won a ton of games, I think at times it's been really hard to kind of pinpoint what their identity is. I think from an offensive standpoint this year, they underperformed relative to their talent. I think the play of the quarterback had something to do with that. I think having a first-year offensive coordinator had something to do with that. But The other thing that stands out, and I'll say this as a criticism, as great of a head coach as Luke is, as much as he preaches discipline, teams did have a lot of penalties. Led the conference in penalties this season, penalties against. It caught up to them in their game on Friday, which if they win that one, they're hosting the American Athletic Conference Championship game. And he's always downplayed them, to the extent that he'll talk about, look, we want our guys to be aggressive. We want our guys to play with an edge. Don't want our guys to be dirty. But look, when you play with an edge, sometimes you're going to have some yellow thrown at you. That could be a little frustrating, but he's going to let his coordinators coordinate, going to let his coaches coach. He's not going to meddle. He let Marcus Freeman for years kind of be the guy running the defense. I don't think he ever really stepped in and micromanaged the offense. I do think, if you want to point at two instances in which Bearcat fans really second-guess Luke, the Peach Bowl in 2020, when they had Georgia on the ropes. Basically, they're a third down play away from salting the game away. They had Des Ridder throw downfield instead of run the football. I think folks also questioned the game plan against Alabama in the college football playoff last year, not having Des run the ball by himself more effectively. And this season, again, I think that they really underperformed relative to the talent that they had. I put that a little bit more on the quarterback than I do the coach. But the reality is this guy won at an insane level here, and I expect him to do really well in Madison.
Yeah, it's a lot of what I heard, and it kind of sounds the same. So hopefully he continues to expound upon his career resume here in Wisconsin. Mo, so what's next for UC? What do they do now?
It's a great question. Look, the reality is this. The Big 12 looms, right? So you're going to get an instant uptick in the level of competition. John Cunningham, he's hired one high-profile coach, the basketball coach. John Cunningham is the AD at UC. When he hired Wes Miller to be the basketball coach, that search was very close to the vest. He's not hired a football coach. My guess is he wants somebody with head coaching experience. But I also think they need somebody who is going to be able to, number one, instantly slow down the transfer portal, get players who are thinking about decommitting to recommit to UC. And I think they dramatically need somebody who knows how to recruit this city, because when UC football is good, they have dozens of players on their roster from Cincinnati. I'm not sure looking for that is going to mesh with somebody who has had coaching experience. There's going to be no shortage of qualified candidates. It's a great job. But in terms of the direction they go in, I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Is it an Urban Meyer-esque job trying to get his toe back into the coaching waters?
Well, Urban Meyer did go to the University of Cincinnati.
Right?
It's worth pointing out. Look, if you want the splash, if you want the buzz, the two names that we'll talk about are Urban Meyer and Deion Sanders. That goes without saying. Now, with Urban Meyer, there's going to be a degree of baggage and scrutiny that you can ask, do we want that? I tend to think that is a move you make if you're desperate. I don't think UC football is desperate. This has been one of the best programs in the country for the last 5 years. They've won 9 games or more each of the last 5 years. They just had their 32-game home winning streak ended. They've been arguably the premier program in this conference for the last 4 years. There are a lot of resources available to the next head coach as they move into the Big 12. This isn't a rebuilding project. I don't think you need flair. And look, Urban Meyer's a great coach, and if he were to show interest, you have to talk to him. But I don't know that you have to bend over backwards to beg him to come to UC, because they're not desperate. I think, bending over backwards for Urban Meyer is what you do if you have an angry fan base, an impatient fan base, a program that's overdue for winning. I don't think any of those things are the case here.
Yeah, no doubt. Mo, always good to talk to you, my friend. Certainly appreciate your time. I know you're busy, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Okay, Bill, thanks.
Thanks, buddy. There you go. That is our buddy Mo Egger from ESPN Radio in Cincinnati. Hear him all the time. We talk a lot of Reds baseball when the Reds and Brewers are getting ready to face off against one another, and obviously he covers Cincinnati football, Bengal football as well, and a lot of hoops down there. But, now they start the search in Cincinnati. I look at it this way, and you guys can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think this is Chris McIntosh, where he is the easy hire that buys you time is Jim Leonhard. It's the obvious. It's the easy. If it doesn't work out, he's a Wisconsin guy. It gives you a bit of a pass. Chris McIntosh is making a bold move. It is a chips to the middle of the table kind of move. It is we are going to turn it around. We are going to expand our recruiting capability. We're going to go to some of the hotbeds in the upper Midwest. We're then going to concentrate right here in our own backyard and keep our talent within Wisconsin. And, I think this is was close to the vest, bold move by Chris McIntosh to say, we're going to go after the guy that's the up-and-comer that we believe first of all, does not have our culture, does not have our understanding, will bring out the outside ideas in, and will make us expand our horizons if we are going to be competitive and going to the next statement. And I think this is a statement hire, and I think it's a good one. Let's do this. We're going to break away. Stay tuned. We got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show coming up. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Curly's Waterfront Pub and Grill. They had a charity meat raffle again out there this past weekend, and the games were on and such, but always doing great stuff for the community. Curly's Waterfront Pub and Grill right there on Pewaukee Lake next to Smokey's Bait Shop. And if you're just in the area, in the Lake Country area, and you're looking for a place to go, home of the pig porker sandwich, which is huge, great pizzas and wraps, but just even better people. So stop out and check out Curly's Waterfront Pub and Grill. Plus, they had some really good music out there this weekend. I think Miles Wangren was playing out there this weekend. Good stuff. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. It's all coming up right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Cool weather, brisk winds, and a hot deal. Hi, this is Gina Della from Pella. Is your home ready for winter weather? Don't wait. Right now, put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 2 years. When it's cold outside, thanks to Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, you'll be warm and toasty inside. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin can be installed in as little as a day, with little to no disruption to your family or your home. Plus, you'll get expert advice from our Pella specialists, professional installation by Pella's certified installers, and the excellent service our customers have come to expect. And Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin has products and warranty offers you won't find anywhere else. Don't wait for the heating bills to start piling up. Right now, put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 2 years at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Visit PellaWI.com today.
Expires 11/30/2022. Certain exclusions and restrictions apply. See showroom for details.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers lose to the Eagles 40-33 on Sunday Night Football. Philadelphia rushed for over 363 yards, the most in a single Eagles game since 1948. Eagles running back Miles Sanders.
We haven't played our best game yet this year, so that's all we're trying to focus on doing each and every week is just play penalty free, mistake free, turnover free, and really dominate the whole game. That's our goal each and every week.
Down 13-0, the Packers came back to tie it up later on before Aaron Rodgers had to leave with a rib injury that'll require an MRI today. Rodgers, who threw 2 picks, talked after the game.
We moved the football basically most of the night against a good defense. We only had like 40 or 50 plays or something. They had over 70, so that was obviously a big difference, but we put up 33 points and battle against the number 1 seed. I think there's a lot to feel good about. Obviously, defense is going to not feel great about some of those things. And obviously I turned the ball over twice, but we put ourselves in position.
So Jordan Love stepped in and with the game on the line for the first time in 3 years, finally got a chance to try to pull one out.
Yeah, especially in a game like this, like I said, my mindset was let's go win. Let's go make a comeback and go win. Don't let it be like the backup saying the game's over, let's go try and win it.
But the Packers defense could not get off the field. Keyshawn Nixon, who played nickel, did well on kick returns and says they never blinked against the 10-1 Eagles.
We ain't never bow down. We ain't scared of nobody, Just you got to keep playing football. Hopefully end up on the win side, but tonight it didn't.
So the Packers fall to 4-8. They head to Chicago to play the Bears. Will Aaron Rodgers be ready for that one? Matt LaFleur.
This is one of the toughest dudes I've ever been around. I don't ever for 1 second question his toughness, his desire to be out there, his desire to compete. Matter of fact, he apologized to me, and I'm like, don't ever apologize to me. Like, I'll never question that. This guy is the ultimate competitor.
Welcome back. Good to have you. Bill Michaels Show. We continue on. That was our guy, Mike Clemens. Appreciate him. Appreciate Mo Egger giving us a lowdown on Luke Fickell as well. Some good stuff coming out of him from Cincinnati. By the way, the update on the poll question over on Twitter: how do you view the Badger hiring of the new head coach Luke Fickell? 64.8% of you say great move. Good move, 16.5%. So you're talking about 80% right now saying good to great move. Only 1.6 saying bad move, and then 17.1 saying I'm just going to have to kind of wait and see. But 321 votes already in just a little over an hour and a half. So, so they have it. It's just if you want to get your voice heard, by all means, go ahead and hit us up. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. If you'd like to chime in and, anything we've talked about so far today, you can chime in on both Luke Fickell and the Green Bay Packers loss from yesterday evening. Got a couple emails here, and this is one from our buddy Dennis, who says, some of the takeaways from the Eagles game. He said, with the defense giving up 40 points, 363 yards rushing, 500 total yards, Joe Barry cements his place in history as being one of the most incompetent defensive coordinators ever. The Joe Barry deserves to be fired, but because he's Matt LaFleur's friend, it's not going to happen during the season. The Jordan Love and the Watson hookup had bright futures. The Jones and Dillon are both last night. A.J. Dillon started to run with that reckless abandon again. He had been kind of hunting and pecking and picking and choosing and getting stymied in the hole, and had not had really good yards per carry average on a consistent basis. And last night he ran like he was on a mission. So I agree with that. The coach LaFleur can be a pretty good offensive coordinator as the offense cranked out 33 points. Also, that coach LaFleur's press conferences make him look weak, and they are nothing more than an opportunity to make him whine, make excuses, blame the players. He offers no tangible solutions to ever resolve anything. And he also says, number 7, LaFleur deserves to be fired now for his mind-boggling, unwavering support of the embarrassing, incompetent Joe Barry. The second year in a row, the support of an incompetent coordinator has led directly to the underachieving season. Number 8, that Mark Murphy needs to step up and have the same courage as the Badger AD. Fire LaFleur immediately. Let Rich Bisaccia take over as interim coach with Jerry Gray as the defensive coordinator. And also, he says that number 9, if Murphy won't do his job, then you got to replace him at season's end as well. He would like to see Andrew Brandt brought back as the Packers team president. That is from Dennis. Dennis, appreciate it. Jimmy says this football team is, he said it's mind-boggling to see a defense that's supposed to be playing so well play so poorly, and it's just simply the fundamentals, the ability to tackle. Do they not practice that anymore? I'll address that after the top of the hour. It's one thing to have a missed assignment. It's another thing just not to be able to reach your arm out and wrap up a guy. What's the problem? We'll talk about that when we come back. I think it's legit. 2 hours down, 2 hours yet to go. Final hour of the program. Mike Clemens is going to be here. Stay tuned for that. We got a lot to get to. If you want to contact us, 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. Hit us up on Twitter at Bill_Michaels or at Ben Z. Kenny. We got calls to get to when we come back. Stay tuned. Whole lot more. The Bill Michaels Show coming up right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Wisconsin football team will introduce its new head coach later today at Camp Randall Stadium. Badgers pulled off the surprise of the coaching carousel so far, luring Cincinnati's Luke Fickell to Madison and bypassing interim coach Jim Leonhard. Fickell turned the Bearcats into a power in his 6 years, winning 2 conference titles and becoming the first Group of 5 team to make the college football playoff last year. Introduction for Fickell set for 4 o'clock. Turning to the Packers, they lost for a 7th time in their last 8 games last night, falling 40-33 to Philadelphia. Eagles ran for 363 yards, the 3rd most the Packers have given up in team history. Green Bay also lost quarterback Aaron Rodgers to a rib injury in the second half. Said afterward he'd have more testing done today to determine the severity of it, but if he's cleared, he plans to play next week, and that's going to be the case until they're mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. After that, though, it's a different story.
There's obviously a lot of other conversations that come into play once you're eliminated, and I'll be open to all those conversations. Pride comes to mind, love of the game, but there's other factors that obviously would come into play should we be mathematically eliminated.
Packers will face the Bears in Chicago on Sunday.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Get insurance from a company who knows Wisconsin and cares about your community. You may know Rural Mutual Insurance as the #1 farm insurer, but did you know they also offer competitive home and auto rates? Visit ruralmutual.com to learn more about products and discounts.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Bucks were 124-115 winners over Dallas last night. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 30 points, 11 rebounds. Grayson Allen had 25 points, hit 7 3-pointers. They'll be at New York on Wednesday. And Wisconsin gearing up to face Wake Forest tomorrow in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
Welcome back. Good to have you. Hey, I want to remind you about our friends at J&L Tire Service. And the reason they're top of mind is because my car's out there. I got a couple things that I have going on. I had both. It was weird. Both my turn signals, the light bulbs went out. And so I'm going to get those replaced. I'm getting an oil change. And what I noticed in the colder weather is that the side that my windshield washer fluid comes out of, and the driver's side of the windshield not working right. So they're going to fix that as well. But just the knick-knack stuff. Just getting the car ready for the winter months and getting it back to 100%. So I highly recommend it. Head out to our friends at J&L Tire Service Center right there, the Goodyear's Tire Service Center. But they carry all different brands, but they're right off of the Johnson Creek exit on 94. You can see it just north of the highway, north of 94. Stop in and tell Lyle and Chad and everybody out there that we said hi. They're really good people. really good people. Peepers. Yeah, fix the blinker fluid too. Yeah, thank you very much. 877-867-1670. Look, open phone lines because we can talk some Packer football. We can talk about the Luke Fickell hire and what's going on with the Badgers. So if you want to chime in either way, coming up the last hour of the show today, we're going to be talking with our buddy Mike Clemens as well. So stay tuned for that. Let's go to the phones, talk to our buddy Chris in Brookfield. Chris, welcome to the program, man. What's going on?
Hey, guys. How's it going there, Bill?
We're doing well today. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking that what they should have done last year already, and that's fire Barry. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was the defensive players that had the one-on-one meeting with Barry and told him, let us run, let us do our thing. And he had to get the room for the defense to stay behind them, and that's what they did. But they need to get rid of Barry. I mean, until they find a coordinator for next year, put Gray in there. And Jordan Love, I am not going to anoint him the next world champion, Hall of Fame first ballot, but I thought he looked like he knew what he was doing yesterday. I thought he played well. I thought he was aggressive. I thought that the only thing I could say that I didn't like was I wish he would have hit Lazard instead of trying to go to Watson on that.
Yeah.
Last play there, because could have been another 6, but our defense was just disgusting. It was totally disgusting. I cannot believe it. I mean, we know they've been bad, but getting embarrassed for close to 400 or 500 yards almost is ridiculous.
500 total yards.
And,
yeah.
And then on the Badgers, I never really heard of the guy too much. I've read his resume and what he's all done, from starting at Ohio State and taking over there as an intern coach and going along. And it seems like he did a real good job with Cincinnati. I mean, he took a smaller school and got them to number 4 in the country. That says something. I'm surprised about Leonard not getting the job, but if you're really going to make a move forward and try to improve the program, I think it was time to try to break from the Badgers regime of keep hiring from within. But here's a question I'm sure 5,000 people have already asked you. Is it a possibility that the Packers reiterate to Leonard to come be their D coordinator?
Yeah.
But first and foremost, Phil, the number one thing the Packers have to do is the people at 1265, the board of directors, have got to get rid of Murphy. Everybody answers to me. If it wasn't for Murphy, I don't believe Rodgers would have been signed for $150 million for 3 years. I mean, he didn't learn from his mistake when he did it the first time at 18, where he wound up playing like crap, and they had to go out and get a first-round draft choice just to put some fire under Rodgers. And at Rodgers' MVP seasons, so what? Got him in the regular season. If he didn't have DA, he never would have got those. We already know Rodgers can't take us to the promised land since 2010. He locks on receivers. He chokes in the big games. I mean, if he throws 3 times the DA and you got Tanyan and Lazard open, San Francisco, he throws a DA in double coverages, gets picked off, and you got Lazard open there. Aaron Rodgers has never learned to be Tom Brady and learn how to move the chains to take what the defense gives you. He wants to keep going to the big play. And that, to me, even though you're paying him $50-some million, if he gets hurt from yesterday's game and it shows he's got cracked ribs, he's not going to play again, he's still going to get his $50 million. See what you got in Love. See if he's worth keeping. If the way the season's going, you could get a good draft pick. You could get another quarterback. Keep Love till you got another one developed. And I just say trade Rodgers, but it's a year too late because he's not looking like he did last year when they could have got all the picks in the world.
Yep, no doubt. I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for taking a listen to us. Boy, there's a lot there to nosh on here. So
what a call.
Yeah, I think a lot of Badgers fans, they're mixed reactions. If you take Jim Leonard out of the mix, I think it's, hey, you found a good coach with a good track record, comes out and has studied under Jim Tressel, studied under Urban Meyer, went off and kind of implemented his own thing at the University of Cincinnati, a nothing school. I mean, it came to prominence after Kelly. Tuberville took it over, ran it right back into the ground. He picked it up, dusted it off, and got him to a national title appearance in the Final Four. And, so, yeah, the schedule there is not, playing Alabama and, and Michigan and Ohio State and Clemson every week. But all you can do is win the games in front of you. He won 55 games in a short period of time. So you're not going to sneeze at that. So if you take Leonard out of the mix, I think most people think this is a great hire. I think there are people, sentimentalists, that are saying, man, I wish Jim Leonard would get it. I hate to lose him. And then he goes on to have success somewhere else. Will Jim Leonard get another crack at the Packers coaching gig? Good question. I wouldn't see why not. Does this season negate the things that, is this just, what have you done for me lately when it comes to coaching for Jim Leonard, who has been so good coordinator-wise? Ben, you tell me, defensively speaking, has this been, it's not a great year by any stretch for the Badgers, but defensively speaking, has it been a good year for the Badgers?
No, not really. They haven't been bad. They've been like top 30, but given their bar, definitely below it. I mean, they lost 8 starters off of the previous year's defense. So I don't think it means anything bad for Leonard and his future as a coach. I don't want Leonard to take the Packers job. Because in 2 years, when the team inevitably gets run all over in a game, he's going to be a scapegoat in that situation too. I feel like the Packers will do him wrong because they always fire DCs.
Do you think, what is your guesstimate? Because I said it earlier. I said, man, if it's me and I really, really, really wanted that job and I didn't get it, now they're saying, hey, go back to work for the guy that got the job. Can you do it? Or do you think Jim Leonard is just such a Wisconsinite? He's just so happy where he's at. He's content. He's obviously feels really good in his job. He's good at it. Do you think he then says, you know what? Yeah, I'll stick around. I'll do this.
I don't think he would. I think Fickell will try because, why would you not try to keep a premier coordinator in the country? I think they'll talk and see if there's a role, but I don't think if I had to project, Leonard will stay. I figure he goes and either gets a lower level group of 5 head coaching job or goes to a higher profile school as a DC. Yeah. He's a college guy at this point, at least to me.
Yeah. I would hate to see him move on and take a mid-level defense to the top 5 in the country and lead a big program into a playoff championship. That's always a risk you run if you don't, retain a guy, obviously, but I think he has that ability. Defensively speaking, I don't know as far as a head coach goes, but defensively speaking, certainly. But man, you look at the guys that have gone on, Dave Aranda was the same guy, had that defense, always playing top notch, left here, now he has the head coaching gig. He was another guy that you could have looked at and said, hey, would you consider coming back to Wisconsin? But man, oh man, Dave Aranda's had success. You'd hate to see Luke Fickell go and have that kind of, Jim Leonard go and have that kind of success. But can you ever see him, now Pac fan says, what are the chances he goes to Nebraska? I can't imagine that. Just in knowing what I know about Jim Leonard, and that's just from talking people around him. It's not like I've sat down and have dinner with the man, but there's just people around him. He's just a Wisconsin guy. He just loves it and loves everything about it and loves being around it and a part of it and grew up with it and wanting to be a part of it. And now he's got it. And, some people say, well, maybe he just won't leave, but you just never know. You never know how much you wanted to be a head coach versus a coordinator versus just being around the program, just being in Madison, whatever. So, yeah.
Well, McIntosh screwed him over too. He got completely screwed in this whole situation. So I doubt he would want to stay under this regime with a new coach, but also with an AD that just completely left him out to dry.
Do you think that McIntosh spoke to him prior to this hire that said, hey, Jim, this is what I'm doing?
No, I don't. Leonard had said that he never got the chance to even go and outline his vision until very recently, until the season pretty much ended.
Yeah.
Where there was a bye week to do that. There was a lot of time. He inherited a team after Paul Chryst was fired that was completely and utterly broken on offense. And the offensive staff is questionable at best.
Right.
So expecting him to turn that around, I think was probably a little too much. I don't see how Leonard could have won in that situation. Maybe the answer is he couldn't have, and Fickell would have been the guy anyway. I don't like how McIntosh handled it. He's leaking to the media that it's Leonard and all that stuff. Not a big fan with the timeline of all of it.
They are two guys that both walk that field. You know what I mean? You would figure there's that, hey, we've been in that locker room. You know, there's only a handful of people that have actually strolled that locker room and had success and gone on to bigger and better things and then come back to Wisconsin. You would assume there would have been more, you know, a beer drinking and or, you know, meal sharing between the two of them for him to be completely blindsided by this hire. That's all I'm saying is, you know, it's like, look, we can talk business, but we're two guys, man. We're two guys that played on this field. We're two guys that love Wisconsin. We're two guys that want to be here. And he wouldn't talk to him. You know, I guess I find that a little bit, if indeed it went down that way, it's a little disconcerting. Then again, it's also very businesslike and very cutthroat from Chris McIntosh, who's basically pushing all of his chips into the middle of the table by not going with the easy hire, by not buying himself some extra time to get that thing turned around. I got to think that Luke Fickell got the phone call and Luke said, hey, look, you're in the bottom third of recruiting dollars. You're in the bottom third of facility upgrades. You're in the bottom third in a lot of areas. You got to put more into the transfer portal and the NIL. There's some things that you really have to upgrade for me to make this thing really go. I got to think don't you think that that's on the horizon? And, oh, by the way, we talk about it all the time. You're in the bottom third of paying coaches. You know, you got to up the game, dude. You know, don't you think, because money's not an object out of Wisconsin. They hang on to it like, you know, they're all going to take it with them when they die. But money is not a major object, a stumbling block in Wisconsin if they want to pay it, right?
Oh, have you seen the Big Ten media deal?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
They're bringing in like 90 mil, 100 mil a year, at least, just from television.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. All of this is clearly McIntosh putting his stamp on the hire. And if Fickell doesn't work out, then that's going to be the only hire Chris McIntosh makes.
Most likely.
But I think if this was, say, still the athletic director that had hired Paul Chryst, for instance, Barry Alvarez, tough example to use because of how long he did it and who he is to the program.
Right.
But if it wasn't a new AD doing this, I think it probably would have been handled a little differently.
When you look at the money in the program, you look at the Big Ten, you look at the competition committee, you look at the Final Four, you look at all of that, you look at the success of Wisconsin football, you look at the money that's been poured back into Camp Randall, the upgrade of facilities over a period of time, even though they're still within the lower third of standards. None of that. That is all. That can all. You don't even have to call it Camp Randall anymore. That can just be simply called the house that Barry built. Everything that Barry was touching within that program was good, was competitive, was making money. You know, you look at the hockey programs, the volleyball programs, you know, all the different programs that kind of really came to fruition when Barry was there. And just if it was already good, he just kept it steady. If it was bad, he brought it up. He brought it up to a different level. So McIntosh has big shoes to fill. This is one of those type of hires to say, I got to bring this back to prominence. I'm not just playing it safe here. This has to come back to prominence. It has to come back to prominence within a 2-year time window. Don't you get that sense?
Yes, back to the prominence they had from 2016 to 2019.
Yeah.
Like third best, fourth best program in the Big Ten. Maybe we'll compete for Big Ten titles, but definitely premier and consistent. And then you hope 1 or 2 years you get that perfect storm of seniors and quarterback and all that to go make a run.
Yeah, I get it. Let's do this. We're going to step away. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. Whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show still upcoming right after this.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
What do you get the meat lover, the grilling lover in your life this holiday season? How about a gift subscription to Scholze Family Beef? Go to ScholzeFamilyBeef.com.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Hey, don't forget about our friends at Quick Trip and the Packers opening drive sweepstakes. Their playoff chances may be pretty much gone, but your chances are still very good. Purchase any of Quick Trip's fully guaranteed gasoline. You go in there with your Quick Rewards card. When you get to the pump, type in your Quick Rewards number. It's usually your phone number. And one weekly winner is going to win a $10 gas card for every yard earned on the Packers opening drive. Quick Trip, by the way, a proud partner of Packers football through the good and the bad, as we can say. And if you purchase any of that fully guaranteed gasoline and they score a touchdown, they drop one into the end zone, maybe a field goal on the opening drive, you can earn an extra $500 from our friends over there at Quick Trip. Not a bad way to go. That's our friends at Quick Trip. Use that Quick Rewards card, and you can get all kinds of different offers too, not just the opening drive contest, but good stuff from our friends over there at Quick Trip. 877-867-1670. Let's go to back to the phones. Talk to our buddy Eric, listening to us in Green Bay. Eric, how you doing today, man? What's up?
Doing all right, Bill. How you doing, man?
Good. What's on your mind?
How was your Thanksgiving?
It was great. We had a nice, Kristen and I and her kids, we just kind of sat around the table, had a really nice meal, watched a movie, watched some football, just had a good, relaxing day.
Awesome. Yeah, my daughter made a whale of a turkey. She's the best at it. And
that's great.
Everybody killed it on the dessert, so I'm just recovering from my coma.
That's awesome.
Hey, I'm loving this coaching conversation because I unlike the last caller. Listen, there's two narratives that keep being brought up over and over with Rodgers that just aren't true if you check the receipts. One, not throwing to receivers after they make a drop. That's not wrong. You watch the receipts, and oftentimes he goes right back to the same receiver immediately after they make a drop. The other one is that he tries to go for the big score all the time without going for the markers, and that's not true either. Historically, Rodgers will go for the first down when it's 1st and 10 on the other team's 11-yard line. So that's just not true. The problem here is the coaching. Absolutely is the coaching. Lack of adjustments. I mean, if you watch the game on Sunday, the defense was doing okay until they just tested to see if they put a spy on Hurts, and they ran the running back off to the left flat and cleared the safety right out of the middle, and the dude ran right down the middle of the field for 50, 60 yards.
Right.
As soon as they figured that out, it was all over for the Packers D. They never made an adjustment to adjust for it. They never put a spy on Hurts. It was ridiculous. This coaching staff gets out-coached more often than not, regularly. And even in their 13-win seasons, there are patterns that developed in those 13 that are straight up with coaching, getting absolutely humiliated after every single bye week by no matter who you play, whether it's a better team than you or not, getting smoked in your opening game of the season, being a one-off in the playoffs. All right, these are bad patterns that have developed with this coaching staff. And I think the problem goes, to the top, really. And I think the problem is that Mark Murphy wants too much control in this organization. And he hired guys that were all kids in the room compared to him. His general manager, his head coach, these are all kids in the room compared to him. What he needs to do is he needs to fire LaFleur right now. I agree with that. And interview Bieniemy or Sean Payton for the job. You put somebody like that in the job, and it will infuse energy into the team. It will not blow the team up. This team has talent. You look at this team on paper, they should be killing people, and they are not. They are underperforming drastically. And it's just pitiful. I mean, there was a decision that just drove me crazy on Sunday. Here they're marching down the field. They're in the red zone. And the second interception. Why is number 84 even on the field, LaFleur? He's not one of your two starting tight ends.
Yeah.
The guy has never done anything but drop passes. He doesn't know how to use his body to shield the ball from the defender. He didn't even put his hands up to make the catch to try to draw a flag. He was like he was running around out there with no defenders during practice. What is 84 doing out there, LaFleur?
Yeah, Tyler Davis.
These are just poor coaching decisions.
Yeah, it wasn't the most opportune time. Now, granted, Tyler Davis is a guy that, you put him in there and suddenly you can say, okay, if it works, he's your secret weapon. He was a guy you didn't expect to go to, much like when they ran David Bakhtiari on an out pattern, and threw the ball to David and it got knocked down. Some things like that, I appreciate the phone call too, man. Some things like that I look at and go, okay, sometimes you just got to throw to whoever's out there. But I agree with you. Tyler Davis might not have been the best opportunity at that point in time. Mercedes Lewis is a possession guy. Tanyan's a possession guy. You'd like to see the guys that have had more sure hands with Rodgers and worked with Rodgers consistently in those positions, but at some point you got to play them. I'm not going to totally fault him for that. But when you go back to the spy, they did make an adjustment. It was funny because I think it was Chris Collinsworth during the broadcast said, did they not prepare for Jalen Hurts as if he wasn't an athletic quarterback? Kind of making fun of the Packers, saying, did you not realize this guy can run the football? And then when they finally did make the adjustment, they were putting numerous players on him. Quay Walker was one of them. And Quay Walker was just outrun. He just didn't have the ability to keep up. Adrian Amos tried a couple of times. It didn't matter who they put out there. And when you've got two different run lanes to go through on numerous runs, when he just tucked it and took off, he had a hole between the center and the right tackle. He had between the right guard. He had another one between the right guard and the left guard and left tackle on a couple of different occasions. As they blocked down, they blocked towards the center on one side, they blocked out on the other. He had numerous holes to run through. And by just freezing the linebacker or whomever the spy was with the contemplation of a pass, putting your eyes downfield, he just flat out outran people after that. I mean, it was, you're right. It was an embarrassing performance. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. The whole thing about firing Matt LaFleur, if they had just not signed him to a contract extension, maybe there's that discussion. But I think 3 seasons of 13 wins plus an NFC championship game, some playoff games, I think it's going to buy him cachet for another year. I really do. I think he's going to have enough swag to say, look, I'm getting rid of Joe Barry, keeping Rich Bisaccia, Some of the guys on this staff probably are going to have to change. But also, I think you need to look a little higher and say, hey, Brian, you've been really good with free agent signings. Maybe we need to find a few more diamonds in the rough because some of the guys that have been drafted over the last few years simply just aren't panning out, or at least not to the level that we need them to be, and go from there. Maybe he hit on something with Watson and Romeo Doubs and such. Maybe he did, and Samori Toure. Maybe he's got some guys now in the stable. And maybe you pick up one more guy. You get rid of Sammy Watkins. Who knows? I would assume you're not going to bring Randall Cobb back. And maybe you find another guy for Alan Lazard. Maybe you draft a couple, and maybe you find another free agent or two. Maybe that all happens, and you come back next year and you're able to run it back with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. You got to have to probably cut loose David Bakhtiari. I know some people say that won't happen because he's Rodgers' guy, but you've used that bank up, man. Rodgers has used all that cachet because you're not winning with him, and you can't afford to pay everybody. And he took a ton of money. So you just got to say, you know what? Can't do it. Sorry. Not going to happen. 877-867-1670. Hit us up, 877-867-1670. Let's go to listen to Joe from De Pere. Joe, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, good. I'm doing excellent. I like your last caller. I'm on board with him. I think Matt LaFleur, I just don't see how he has the team. But when he talked about talent, where's the talent on the team? I think you've talked about this before. Where is the talent? There is no talent. Who really makes plays? Jair Alexander acts like it. I hear that Quay Walker is supposed to look like Samson, but he plays like Sally.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have out there? I mean, I think do you have any linebackers who attack the line of scrimmage? It seems like all we do is catch. Even when Campbell was in there, all he did was catch, and he always got knocked over backwards. It's like A.J. Hawk again, catching people instead of attacking people. So I guess I question, do the Packers really have that much talent? Because if they don't, then like you just said, you got to look higher up. Is it Gutekunst? Is it the lack of talent that has been brought in? Because what have our number ones done? Savage is terrible. I don't think the cornerback that's hurt did anything special, Stokes, so I don't think he's anything special. And then you pick two this year. One's on the bench. One who's supposed to be the middle linebacker, who's supposed to be everybody bragged about. What is he? He didn't do anything yesterday. He couldn't make a tackle. So I guess I just, when we hear about talent, where is it?
Yeah.
Where is it, Bill?
Well, appreciate the phone call. 877-867-1670. Let's do this. You look at Kenny Clark. You believe Kenny Clark is a solid player who got boat raced yesterday. The pickup of Jerron Reed, the drafting of TJ Slayton, they've shown flashes, but nothing consistent. Dean Lowry is a guy. Okay. Devontae Wyatt, I want to see him start getting more snaps and get him experience. The whole thing about Quay Walker, and I said this last night, I'll say it again today. If he ever learns how to get off of a block, he'll be a solid middle linebacker. It's just going to take him a little bit. You got to remember, he's a rookie. He was a starting rookie that had to come in and shine right away, and he's just not been able to do so. I give him another year or even two, actually, to really begin to kind of show his wares. Devondre Campbell obviously hurt. Stokes last year, when Jair went down, Stokes played well. If you don't, you can't just forget that. Stokes played well. And then you thought this was part of the paper at the beginning of the season. When Stokes is there and Jair's there, you've got your two corners. Rasul Douglas was going to be that nickel. He was going to fill that in. You had Darnell Savage. You also had Adrian Amos. Savage was a hitter. Adrian Amos was kind of that calming influence, that field general. Then you had your middle linebackers in Quay Walker being drafted, Devondre Campbell, and then you were supposed to have Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary. And then in the middle, you've got, Jerron Reed, TJ Slayton, Kenny Clark, Dean Lowry, Devontae White. You're going to run that mix. So on paper, it seemed like it was an upgrade. And don't forget, last year, it wasn't a bad defense. There's a lot of games where you could say, it wasn't Barry's fault. Some of the bigger moments certainly were, and some of the soft coverages and things that they played. But for the most part, we were going, this isn't Barry's fault that they lost a game here or there. Certainly wasn't in the postseason. That defense held San Francisco to 10 points, and they lost the game. That wasn't their fault. That was admirable. This year, I don't know. I can't believe that we overvalued all of the talent collectively that bad. It's almost like I don't want to believe what we actually saw. It is easy to say, you know what? Joe Barry stinks. But we've done this. When's the last time you saw an aggressive punch you in the mouth, kick you in the butt defense? It's been forever. It really has. 877-867-1670. Hey, our friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin want to remind you that the cold, it's a-coming. This morning you woke up, there was frost. They had freezing fog in the area this morning. The frost is on the pumpkins. So if you want to keep the frost out of the house, do what I did. Go to Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin and either get yourself a patio door to seal the deal on the outside, or get yourself some new windows, new hardware, new interior, new exterior, beautify your home, make your home more valuable. That's our friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Go to PellaWI.com. That is PellaWI.com. That's PellaWI.com, or call them 855-PELLA-WI. That is 855-PELLA-WI.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Wisconsin isn't snobby, snooty, or pretentious. It's Midwestern charm at its finest. And that's exactly what Forgotten Fire Winery in Peshtigo is all about. Fun in a bottle without the attitude. You can find their full wine and cider lineup in their tasting room or in liquor and grocery stores throughout the state. The winery is a great place to get away for wine and cider tastings, great live music, and private events all year long. Remember, any time is a great time for Forgotten Fire wines and ciders. Wisconsin wine made from Wisconsin people.
Today's the day when everything changes and you're back in the game at Potawatomi Hotel and Casino, where your win is waiting. Alongside great dining, world-class entertainment, and a luxurious hotel, all in the heart of downtown Milwaukee. Here, we play to win. Visit PaysBig.com for more. Must be 21 to enter casino.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. Hey, don't forget about the Sunset Grill, also on Pewaukee Lake. Good place. Good food over there, too, as a matter of fact. Not that we're going to have a whole lot of sit out on the deck weather coming up, but still a really cool place. Head on over. Sunset Grill on Pewaukee Lake, and you can even do the rounds over there. Hit Curly's and hit Sunset Grill. Not a bad way to go if you want to do a little lake action. Stop by. Tell them we said hi. Good stuff. And they always have good specials, too. They have karaoke. They have bingo that goes on during the week over there. So a lot of good things going on. Sunset Grill in Pewaukee. Let's go back to it. Let's go to our buddy Gerard from Delaware. Gerard, what's going on, man? How you feeling today?
Hey, good, Bill. You know what the anniversary was yesterday? Rodgers coming in against the Cowboys.
Was it really? I didn't know that.
So maybe, yeah. So look, we always talk about what have you done for me lately. Okay, so let's say this was Love's first game we ever seen him. What would you think then? You see what I'm saying?
I would say he played pretty well. Yeah.
There you go. So the guy's big, athletic. Obviously, he's got a great arm. Okay, he was very accurate yesterday, except for one throw with the ball. Okay, so I don't have a problem with trading Rodgers. Okay, now the problem is with the coaching. Now I don't have a problem with him. Now let me tell you this: the Jets and Carolina would die for this guy. Would die for it. The Jets would give up anything for Rodgers. They just benched. Now you talk about drafting a quarterback. Wilson looks like a 12-year-old playing Pop Warner. He looks like a little kid when he plays. Okay, so the Jets benched him. Okay,
right.
All right, fine. Now who do you don't know who you're going to get in the draft? The whole bit. You've been working with Love for how long? The kid look good. He look good. Let's give him the credit for all the criticism he's got. All right. Now on the other hand, here's my theory. Now I don't know. You guys were telling me about Leonard, this and that, and everything else. Because we don't have, let's say, an alpha male as a head coach. We need an alpha male as a defense, a smart guy, though, not just a yeller and screamer, a guy that will be on the sidelines and get in your face, though. And is Leonard that kind of guy? And my other thing is, could they talk to Leonard now? I'm not saying incognito. In other words, hey, listen, if we, and you could be our coordinator next year. And another thing on the defense, yesterday, even Collingsworth pointed this out. When the Packers were going to a 4-man defensive line, the gaps that they were having between the players,
right,
Well, unbelievable. I thought the defensive linemen were partially trying to keep the running backs and everybody off the linebackers so the linebackers could have a chance to make a. I'm not making excuses because they did miss a lot of tackles, but there's so much wrong with this that you can't make it up. Every down there was something wrong.
I would agree. It was funny because if they spread them out, they gutted them up the middle. If they put them and bunched them together, they ran strong side and beat them there. There was no and the arm tackling yesterday, Gerard, you could have had everybody on the line of scrimmage against the run. I mean, all 11 guys stacking a box, and with the arm tackles, they still would have ran for 400 yards against you because fundamentally they were one of the worst teams I've seen in a long time.
So they should know now, Bill. They should know today because of what happened in Wisconsin with the new coach. They should know today if Leonard said, okay, I will coach a defense next year. They should know today.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yep. No, you'll find something out. I did get, and Gerard, I appreciate it, man, as always. I'm gonna mention this here real quick. There was, where did it go? I wanted to find it. Okay. This is some out of the Journal Sentinel that said basically that Jim Leonard, at least the report was that Leonard had talked about the commitments of being a head coach and having young kids and didn't know if that commitment, that it was too much of a time commitment. A, quote, source with strong ties to the athletic department since the 1990s said Sunday that Leonard ultimately decided that the time commitment to run a program was just too much. He is married. He's got 3 young sons. Noted after moving up from the secondary coach to the defensive coordinator in 2017, he was concerned that the longer hours would affect his family. And then it goes on to talk about the hiring of Luke Fickell. I don't know.
Who said that?
That was apparently in the Journal Sentinel.
Huh.
So I have not heard anything like that. But if that's the truth, then maybe there indeed was a discussion with Chris Matt. Maybe that's the reason this isn't. At least wouldn't assume to be a huge surprise via the Jim Leonard side of things, because if McIntosh came to him and he said, I don't know if I can, I got the time commitment to do it. Maybe in a few years I could do it. And maybe they said, okay, let's try something else. Don't know. 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. But that was, somebody had sent me that over on Twitter. And said, here's an excerpt of and it's got the Journal Sentinel listed in it. So you have to go find, I don't have the exact article sitting here in front of me, but I'll find it in the Journal Sentinel for sure. But, if that's the case, if that is true, well, then this is even more understandable. If it's not, then we'll wait and see. We'll got to wait for, Jim Leonard's reaction to all of that, the hiring, because I'm sure it's going to be, scrutinized, and he's going to be discussed quite a bit in the next few days. But one of the most shocking days in program history was all of a sudden it went from Jim Leonard should be hired and by the end of the week, and we're going to hear a signing to all of a sudden it's Luke Fickell. It's like, whoa, wait, what? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So everybody thought it was just a no doubt.
I found the clip, Bill. It's weird. He then deleted it.
Really?
From future articles.
Okay. So you found it, but it's not there anymore.
Very odd.
Okay.
Yeah. I also will note that this was the same writer who had been saying as recently as Saturday night it was still Leonard's job.
Okay.
I don't know. This is weird stuff going on.
Yeah.
College football is weird.
Yeah. Yep.
There's no the natural, NFL coaching search process. Right. It's also straightforward.
No, and that's the other thing, that there was some sentiment kind of floating below the surface that I had heard that, some people within the UW system wanted to, open up the hire to interviews and discussions, and, kind of like they do with the Rooney Rule in professional, that, wanted to interview and as many candidates as possible and make this a true job search rather than just handing it to a guy, and certainly that was a very fast, 180 from what we thought was going to happen. 877-867-1670. Let's do this. We'll step out. We'll take a quick break, come back, pick up where we left off via the phone calls. So stay tuned. If you are on hold, I promise I'm going to get to you. This is from our friends over there at Great Lakes Dragaway. And if you're looking for the 2023 coupons right now and or season pass, if you're a car guy, a car girl, if you're a fast motorcycle guy, fast motorcycle girl, dragsters, running your own, whatever it may be, the 2023 season pass is now up and running. Go to GreatLakesDragaway.com. That is GreatLakesDragaway.com and see for yourself and get your speed on. Pick a lane going down Great Lakes Dragaway.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Cool weather, brisk winds, and a hot deal. Hi, this is Gina Della from Pella. Is your home ready for winter weather? Don't wait. Right now, put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 2 years. When it's cold outside, thanks to Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, you'll be warm and toasty inside. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin can be installed in as little as a day, with little to no disruption to your family or your home. Plus, you'll get expert advice from our Pella specialists, professional installation by Pella's certified installers, and the excellent service our customers have come to expect. And Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin has products and warranty offers you won't find anywhere else. Don't wait for the heating bills to start piling up. Right now, put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 2 years at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Visit PellaWI.com today.
Expires 11/30/2022. Certain exclusions and restrictions apply. See showroom for details.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Now, in Green Bay, here's Mike Clemens.
The Packers lose to the Eagles 40-33 at Lincoln Financial Field. Philadelphia jumped out to a 13-0 lead, led by Jalen Hurts, who rushed for 158 yards, the most ever in a game for an Eagles quarterback, surpassing Randall Cunningham, Michael Vick, and Donovan McNabb. Hurts after the game.
You know, I have a great deal of respect for those guys, the guys that have come before me, Randall, Mike, McNabb, and they don't even know how they've affected me and impacted me in my time here. And it's an understatement to say how much I appreciate them, because I do.
The Packers tied it up at 20 apiece, but Aaron Rodgers, playing with that fractured thumb, suffered a hit to his rib cage that's going to require an MRI today.
That's ribs. And it was in the first half and then got kind of re-aggravated in the third quarter. Just having a hard time breathing. I was worried about a punctured lung as well.
Jordan Love took over in the fourth quarter and threw a 63-yard touchdown pass to rookie receiver Christian Watson, his 6th of the season, who showed off his speed.
I take a lot of pride in my speed. I think that's a big part of my game. So, anytime I can create a little bit of separation and, just get that edge, obviously there's opportunity for big plays.
But the Eagles took over and grinded out a 10-play drive that finished with a 54-yard field goal. Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni.
When you have a kicker like Jake Elliott, you trust him to make those situations. And he drilled it. We have so much faith in him.
Jordan Love finished with 2 scoring drives in the final period and a quarterback rating of 146.8. Matt LaFleur.
I'm not shocked, to be honest with you, that he went out there and played well and showed great poise. That we see it on a daily basis.
That's Packers head coach Matt LaFleur. I'm Mike Clemens on The Bill Michaels Show.
Welcome back. Hey, if you need a catering gig and you're looking for somebody with good Italian food to cater whatever it happens to be, your holiday party, a wedding, a get-together, gathering in your home, whatever it happens to be, our buddy Joey Albanese's out here in the Waukesha area. They do catering. That's right. They do. You can pick it up and, kind of set it up yourself, or they can come and do it for you. But regardless, stop into Albanese's on Blue Mountain Road, right next to Menards, right across the street from Home Depot. Or if you just want to eat in, obviously, terrific place. But they do a lot of catering, especially with holiday parties and such coming up. If you don't have a caterer yet, think Italian. Think Joey and the gang over at Albanese's, by all means. 877-867-1670. Let's get back to it. Let's go to John listening to us in Atlanta. John, welcome to the program, man. What's going on?
Hey, Bill. Thanks for letting me call. Just wanted to throw this at you. I know, in the last, since the season's kind of become a dumpster fire, there's a lot of heat on the GM, who he's bringing in. And I actually disagree. I think Gutekunst's done the best job he can. And I think the guys that have been brought, I honestly feel, and I want to get your viewpoint, but what's the percentage of how much weight are you going to put on the GM, or just the lack of teaching, the lack of coaching? Because like these 2 guys from Georgia, I'm in Atlanta. Those guys, the thing is with them, they were total studs last year. They only, I think, both had a year under their belt as far as starting. So with our linebacker, he's going to take time. You can't expect Ray Lewis year 1. The guy's a total stud. If you guys look back at his tape, both of those guys are animals. Wynn, the tackle? That guy was a game wrecker. He was a mini sap. That's what I noticed watching him play ball.
Yeah.
But again, he doesn't have a lot of experience, doesn't have a lot of starting time. So we need patience. But again, if the coaching's not there, and clearly, I can't believe he's not starting by now. But if the coaching's not there, we're just going to be spinning our wheels as fans, because I think those are awesome. And a lot of these drafts, I really feel it's a lot on the organization, and that's hiring the right coaches. I think we've fallen short there as a team, and now we're just reaping the benefits of that. And I think now at this point, I think a lot of them, I'm sure they're losing heart. That's just human, when you're becoming a team like they are, they're not playing with the same fire under their belly, and you can't dog them. It is what it is. When you see a coaching staff that's shaky, they see it. They see it more than we do.
Oh, yeah.
So if there's a little bit of tension there as far as them questioning things as players, see, we're like Kenny Clark's, obviously he might be a little bit hurt, but we know Kenny's got more in the tank. So it's just it's a weird year, but I don't know. I guess I lean towards, again, it goes back to coaching. Like that guy that called a few times ago. It's a coaching problem. And if it doesn't get fixed anytime soon as fans, just spin your wheels on it. But I'm not going to keep getting on the GM. I think he's done fine.
No,
we got to coach him up.
I appreciate the phone call. I would agree with the 2 rookies coming out of Georgia. Now, remember, when you're coming out of Georgia and you're a beast, okay, you know, UAB, the guys at UAB or South Carolina, Vanderbilt, you know, even Florida going back to last year, Missouri, you know, Tennessee before Tennessee finally got pretty good. Charleston Southern, I think they played last year. Those guys aren't much competition. So yeah, you should pretty much be a beast. And even, but in the national title game, you know, you look at it that way. In the national title game, when they got the win and they knocked off Alabama, they played extremely well. I mean, they went through number 2 Michigan and number 1 Alabama to get there. And both the defense in both of those games is pretty much what led them. Now, granted, the offense, I think, put up 30-plus points per game, but they held their opponents in those games to under 20 points, and those two guys were leaders on that defense. So, on one hand, I agree. I don't think it's necessarily all the talent. I think if you just look at some of the stockpile of talent or lack thereof, that you can blame on Brian Gutekunst. But I agree with you. It's just, one, it's going to take a little while. And 2, sometimes you have to be adaptable enough as a head coach or a coordinator to put your guys in the best position to be successful. And I've said it time and again, when I don't know how you're doing that when you're playing a soft zone on a 3rd and 6 and guys are already setting up 10 yards downfield and backpedaling at the snap. Some of that stuff that you and I can see, while it may be schematically correct as to what they're doing, it's got to be a bad call. You know, there's only so much land you're going to give up, and that shouldn't be that much. We got another hour yet to go. Stay tuned. Stay on the phone line. Stay right where you're at. I'll get to a few more phone calls before we get to Mike Clemens coming up here in about 15 minutes. Stay tuned. More of the Bill Michaels Show coming up right after this. Final hour of the Bill Michaels Show. Good to have you on this Monday. Cooler Monday, but hey, it's sunshiny. Like it. Coming up later on this afternoon, 4 o'clock, the introduction of Luke Fickell as the next head coach for the Wisconsin Badgers football program. We're going to carry a lot of that stuff tomorrow on the show. Good to have Mo Egger. By the way, in case you missed it, Mo Egger from ESPN Radio in Cincinnati gave us a really good lowdown on Luke Fickell coming into this situation. If you haven't heard it already, right after the show, go to the podcast page. Whether it's Google, whether it's Apple iTunes or Spotify, you can find it. Listen to the second hour of the program. And Mo Egger gave us a real good breakdown and answered a lot of questions about Luke Fickell and what the Badgers are going to be getting. Got Mike Clemens coming up here in about 15 minutes. Stay tuned for that. In the meantime, Let's get back at it. We've got, let's see here. We got Doug listening to us in Luxembourg. Doug, how you doing today, man? What's going on?
Hey there, Bill. Doing good. Couple things. One on the Badgers, one on the Packers. I like the way the Badgers are handling this. I think it's time for a change all the way around. Personally, I think Jim Leonard has been like head coach of the Badgers the last 3 or 4 years. And I think if you just kept him around, the coach of defense, you're just going to get more of the same. And I think it's time for a change. That's all I'm going to say on that. Packers, I think, it's a combination of talent. I think we do overrate some of the talent on this team. But coaching to, like you say, 3rd and 6 and you're playing 10 yards deep, I don't know if that's just the coach's call or if the player doesn't have any confidence. They're so afraid of getting beat deep that they'll get bled to death in the game,
Yep. I think they get that. I think they get that beat in their head. Nobody gets behind you. Obviously, we saw it happen when Kevin King in that game against Tampa Bay in the NFC Championship game at Lambeau Field got burned in the end of the first half. And since then, it's been like keep everything in front of you. Don't let anything behind you. It doesn't matter what happens. And you still die a death. It's just you're dying a death by 1,000 cuts.
Yep. One big point in the game last night, it didn't matter in the long run, but in the first half, with about 2 minutes and 40 seconds left in the game, Packers are driving, good chance to take the lead going into the half. They ran the ball, I think 4 or 5 straight times, and they got 2 or 3 first downs. And they're around the 50-yard line, and it's 1st and 10, and they try some type of trick play to go deep, end up getting sacked.
Mm-hmm.
Then they got sacked again and again. Why do they keep doing this stuff? Why can't this team ever be patient and run it out like the other teams? You die a slow death. Well, you have a slow win. It's like they just can't wait to take that shot, and it's killing them.
Yeah.
And one more point: I think the team eventually takes on the characteristics of the coach, and this team just isn't able in the big games to enforce their will upon anybody. It's just so soft. Dean Lowry plays on roller skates. The guy lines up on right defensive end, not a running play in his direction. He ends up on the other side of the other hash.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it just, Josh Myers 2 on offense. I'm sick and tired of watching him stand behind the running back while the running back's fighting for yards. It's just ridiculous. This how soft this team is. And I think that comes down to the coaching staff. So those are my comments. Thanks for taking my call.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it. You go back to Rodgers taking the sack. They took a sack, and then I think they ran the ball, and then they took another sack, and then it was after that O'Donnell comes in and punts. And it was a shame because yesterday as well, after the Keyshawn Nixon big kickoff return, they're at midfield, and instead they just ended up going backwards. But you talk about kind of taking what's there, and why are you always going downfield? Rodgers is always looking for the matchup and the guy that he wants. He just always is, which is why it was, because the Packers had not converted on 5 of their 3rd down attempts with Aaron Rodgers. The first one of the night came, it was I believe it was like a 7-yard pass to Alan Lazard when Jordan Love was in there, and he looked decisive in the pocket, got rid of the football quickly, did it on that shallow route off to the right. And then obviously on that crossing pattern was decisive with a good zip on the ball to Christian Watson. It was everything that was opposite of his starting debut last season in Kansas City. He couldn't make the easy plays. The Chiefs were blitzing him constantly. He looked indecisive. He looked like he really wasn't sure of himself. Last night, he stood tall in the pocket, man. It looked like something in the offseason clicked for him. And I give him credit, for as much as and as hard as I've been on Jordan Love. Last night, I will say, in a quarter's worth of football, he looked pretty damn good. No doubt about it. 8-7.
Bill, they just ran out of possessions. They were coming back to win that game with him.
Right.
We all know that.
That was just the same thing as when, and by the way, I think Gerard said it earlier that this is the anniversary of Rodgers coming in and playing against the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know what the exact date was. I think it's this week at some point. But it's same thing with that game with Rodgers. When Rodgers came in, he just ran out of time. they were down so far and getting beat up, and the time was so short. I really believe had they had another 5-10 minutes on the clock, Rodgers brings it back and doing it. I think he ends up bringing it back and giving it to him.
I've seen enough. I'm ready for the Jordan Love era.
I don't know if I'm ready to go that far, but last night instilled a little more confidence in me.
I'll go that
will
far.
say that. Let's do this. Let's go to Greg listening to us out in Madison. Greg, how you doing, man? What's up?
Hey, Bill. Thanks for taking my call. I have a question. We haven't really gotten a good answer. Whatever happened to the old days where the punter, especially when like the ball is in midfield, they would aim for the coffin corner.
Right.
It seems like a lot of punts now go into the end zone. I don't understand why they don't directional kick towards the coffin corner, get the ball. If it's better on the 6, 8, 10-yard line than at the 25.
Right. The premise is that if you get a punter that kicks high and far enough that your coverage will actually run under it and stop the ball from bouncing into the end zone. Therefore, you don't need the coffin corner. To me, first of all, coffin corner kicking is an art. There's an art to that. I would assume there's probably not a whole lot of guys that can do it consistently because that's not the way they've been trained. But secondly, they just believe that you've got enough speed that you can get downfield, that you can put it to one side of the hashes or the other, kind of pin them in a little bit, use the sideline as a 12th man. But ultimately, you're running down there to either get a fair catch or get under the football and knock it out of the end zone before it actually takes a bound into the end zone. That's more philosophical reasons as to why they don't do it so much. Appreciate the phone call. 877-867-1670. We got Mike Clemens coming up here in about 7-8 minutes, so hang in there. Tony in Sussex, you're on the line. Tony, what's going on today, man?
Hey, Bill. I got a couple things here, and this has bothered me for a long time with defensive players, especially with cornerbacks, everything when it comes to tackling. They're missing a lot of tackles a lot. They just don't ramp up.
Mm-hmm.
They don't ramp up because they don't want to get hurt. Okay.
Yep.
So they're going to arm tackle. They're going to put their head down and their shoulder into someone, and hopefully they're going to knock them down. I mean, that's what that's all about. No one wants to stick their helmet, write the numbers when there's a fullback coming like a freight train at you.
Mm-hmm.
None of those guys do that. And I think Joe Barry, I think his system is totally flawed. I think he's got to go. I mean, just like, they play too far off the pass all the time. He just had no answer for last night, and it was just ridiculous. The guy that called earlier and said that with LaFleur, no, I think LaFleur is a great coach, and he's only going to get better. I want to see him. The offense played pretty good last night. He scored 33 points.
Right.
Okay, the running game, I like the way they're using the running game. And I'll say one other thing when it comes to Jordan Love, I'm excited about Jordan Love when he gets his opportunity, and I hope they don't let him go, because, they don't want to pay him for another year or whatever. I think he's the future. I think, he remember COVID was going on.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't get the quarterback camps that everybody else normally would get. He was behind. And sometimes, guys, a lot of times these guys come out of college. Rodgers was the same way. He used to hold the football different. They changed the way you hold the football. Sometimes they change the whole thing, to your whole footwork, the way you throw it. And I don't know. I've seen enough that, even last night. I mean, from what people are saying in practice, and I get it, that's practice. But a lot of players are saying he'll be a starting quarterback and a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think I like the way his attitude was, just the way he didn't look razzled or scared, nothing. He just went down and he did his business. And I'm excited about that. But Joe Barry, he's got to go. I can't stand his scheme as long as he's there. I don't believe you need someone that's going to scream in your face. That doesn't do anything. Maybe when I was a kid that didn't,
Right.
But the player of today, you got to teach them. You just have to have better schemes. And one thing, though, is this. And it goes on in the league, and it's always going to go on. This tackling where the defensive back puts their shoulders down. They put their shoulders on, and or they end up hitting the guy, maybe trying to hit him with his back or whatever. But
Well, sometimes they just dive at him like a human missile,
Right.
just hoping to trip him.
Right, and then you over pursue. You don't really have your head up, so you know what the heck's going on. Plus, I don't see anybody put their helmet right in the numbers, and that's what I was always taught. That's what I mean, right?
Right.
Put their, but they don't. People don't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, and I really believe that's part of it too. When they see a guy, a big guy like Bettis or someone, when we play Tennessee, who wants to put the number? It's just how it is.
Right.
And but you just think of the people we have that are hurt on defense. We really don't have our team.
Yeah, you didn't have Rashawn Gary. You didn't have Devondre Campbell. Eric Stokes isn't back there. You got 3 starters missing off your defense right away. I agree with that. You know what? Let's do this. I appreciate the phone call. I got to run. We got to get to Mike Clemens, who's going to be standing by. We're going to take a quick break, come back. Mike and I will talk. Mike's going to give us a lot of the locker rooms last night and what the thought was coming out of Lincoln Financial as the Packers ended up getting beat 40-33 on the road. And while there is that tiny glimmer of light at the end of the playoff tunnel, it is all but extinguished. I think I woke up this morning, was reading a 3% chance for the Green Bay Packers to actually make it to the postseason. They are not mathematically eliminated as of yet, but it is beyond on life support. I think at this point in time, if they were a doctor, they'd be calling the family in and giving the last rites just before they pull the plug. So it's not a good situation. Let's do this. We're going to step away. We're going to take a quick break. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Forgotten Fire Winery, and had some of that over the weekend. Had some good Forgotten Fire over the weekend. It's good to get local. They are right there in Peshtigo, Wisconsin. Good local winery. Jake, the master winemaker, Chris and Melissa, the owners up there, they do such a fantastic job. So stop in to the winery in Peshtigo. Look for it by name, ForgottenFireWinery.com. That's ForgottenFireWinery.com. Or if you can't make it to the winery, stop into a liquor store, grocery store, wine store, and ask for it by name. They carry all different types. So there's something. If you like a Pinot Grigio, they got it. If you like yourself a Merlot, got it. Cab, got it. Whatever it happens to be, they make it, and they make it fun. That's what their motto is, fun in a bottle. Go to ForgottenFireWinery.com. That's ForgottenFireWinery.com. Mike Clemens joining me next on the Bill Michaels Show.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Jordan Love. 37. Here he is throwing in the middle. It's caught by Watson. He's got great speed. Turning the corner. Christian Watson down the sideline. And he will score. Whoa. Hang on. Love to Watson. To a one-score game.
Take a lot of pride in my speed. I think that's a big part of my game. So, anytime I can create a little bit of separation and, just get that edge, obviously there's opportunity for big plays.
Welcome back. Good to have you. Bill Michaels Show. Enjoying the day. Good stuff. And although it was in a loss last night, good connection. Christian Watson, obviously, and I'd said it earlier in the show, he took off like it's the end of the world. I mean, there was nobody that was going to catch him last night. He just made it look real easy. Joining us now on the hotline, our buddy Mike Clemens is here. So, Michael, Christian Watson, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's had a tremendous stretch. The problem is it's just been kind of for naught because the team's still losing games.
6 touchdowns in 3 games, another new rookie franchise record. Some guy back in 1952 I'd never heard of. But it was 6 targets, 4 receptions, 110 yards total, the 63-yarder on the crossing route. Jordan Love comes in after we've spent 3 quarters of the game and frankly about a third of the season watching Aaron Rodgers in pain, now knowing that he's been playing with a fractured thumb.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, Watson comes and connects on that 63-yarder, that crossing route, and just simply outruns, safety in a corner, gets a very nice block from Alan Lazard down there near the goal line. And so we asked Christian Watson after the game, about how he was feeling of achieving this in terms of these, all he does is score touchdowns. And what was Jordan Love like in the huddle last night?
I think he was calm, cool, and collective. I feel like he came in like he had been doing it all season. So I think he came in and gave us the opportunity we needed. It's a team game. So I'm not happy about anything unless we're being successful as a team. It may sound cliche, but I'm passionate about competing. I'm passionate about winning football games. I'm passionate about football in general. So if we're not winning, everything else is. It doesn't matter.
Jordan Love became kind of a story in that last quarter last night, Mike, and I talked about it. He did not look great in that Kansas City game last year. He made mistakes. He didn't look decisive, wasn't quick with his passes. Last night, quick to get rid of the ball, looked decisive, good footwork, strong arm, put it on a line. I thought it was a vast, now granted, 1 quarter is not a career make, but I thought it was a vast improvement for him.
Yeah, if it was even a quarter, because what drove me nuts was, all right, he's now brought this game back to within 1 touchdown, and he stands on the sidelines for 7 minutes, which we'll talk more about. That was just ridiculous that the Packers defense could not get off the field there toward the end of the 4th quarter. But Love ended up being 6 for 9, 113 yards, a QBR in that short stint of 146.8. And, he has seemed different to me. This is why I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago, because I thought we were going to come to this point. I didn't see how they were going to turn things around. I thought you might see some more Jordan Love time, and he's probably going to get a lot more media attention now if that's what happens. But he said, after waiting 3 years, he finally got a shot to go out there and try and pull out a game.
I can hang my hat on that. That's the moment I've been preparing for. Like I said, this whole season, you never know when it will come. But, especially in a game like this, like I said, my mindset was, let's go win. Let's go make a comeback and go win. Don't let it be like, the backup saying the game's over, Let's go try and win it.
It was interesting. I know that John Kuhn on the sideline last night said that Aaron Rodgers was dealing with a oblique, I think was the original report. And then Rodgers obviously confirmed it is a rib. So now you wonder, one, how bad it is and how long it's going to take him to get back. And as he said, if he can play, he still wants to play.
Yeah, I think on the network, the replay showed in the hit he took in the third quarter, and he was going down, and he had 2 or 3 Eagles on top of him. And you were trying to say, all right, is that the thumb that got hit by a helmet? Or, wait, he's up now, and he's sort of holding his side, his ribs or so. And so Rodgers was asked about, what was the injury after the game?
That's ribs. And it was in the first half and then got kind of re-aggravated in the third quarter. Just having a hard time breathing and rotating my upper body. So I was worried about a punctured lung as well. So I want to get that checked out. Get a scan tomorrow.
So because they announced oblique in the press box, what is it? It's a rib injury, not an oblique?
Yeah, it's not oblique.
Broken, is that the early indication?
It was hard to tell on the x-rays. So we're going to do some more tomorrow.
How about the lung?
Lung's fine.
Is it a possibility of shutting down for the rest of the year?
I don't think so. As long as I check out fine tomorrow, I'll expect to play this weekend.
Oh, you think you might?
Yeah, as long as I check out okay tomorrow.
Mike, it was interesting because one of the only times I saw Matt LaFleur smile the entire night was after Jordan Love hit that pass to Christian Watson.
Right. Well, it's a sense of relief. As for Aaron Rodgers, first of all, he's smart enough to know, okay, if I got a cracked rib, then the next thing I need to worry about is there a punctured lung? They took an X-ray at the stadium. It was inconclusive. That's why he wants an MRI today. So he wants to know what he's dealing with. Am I dealing with a cracked rib? Is there any damage to the lungs? What's my next step moving forward? But, he still wants to play. He's here to play. He wants those games. He's not interested in advancing the career of Jordan Love. Then somebody said, well, are you doing this because someone suggested to him, why don't you just shut down, just rest up, get ready for next year? And, he said, I haven't made a decision on next year, which means, we're going to go through that whole thing in the off season, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
They're not going to go to the playoffs. He's going to see what happens if they keep Tom Clements as his quarterback coach, or what do they do with Mercedes Lewis or Mason Crosby or Randall Cobb? He's going to wait and see what Gutekunst has up his sleeve, or LaFleur does in the following months before he makes his decision if he's going to come back to the 23 Packers. So in the meantime, yeah, you asked Matt LaFleur flat out. Jordan Love came off the bench and looked hot. What did you think of number 10's performance?
I'm not shocked, to be honest with you, that he went out there and played well and showed great poise. That we see it on a daily basis, in practice. And I know, people might not necessarily agree with that, but I see it every day. And I think he's a guy that has continued to get better and better each and every day in practice, and does a great job against our defense, giving them fits and giving them really tough looks.
You have to kind of anticipate, even if the injury to Aaron isn't real severe, that you're still going to be without him for a game or two.
I don't even want to get into that right now. I would never speculate on that. If Aaron's healthy and ready to go, then I anticipate him being out there.
Now, that was the other thing, Mike, that, as Matt LaFleur put it, if they believe if Rodgers is ready to go, and Rodgers has stated that, hey, if we're not mathematically eliminated, then I want to go. So you got to figure that he's going to go unless, the doctors tell him otherwise,
Bill, what do you think is the best decision for the team with the 5 remaining games?
I think if Rodgers is hurting at all, I think that probably Jordan Love, it's time to take a look at.
Why not?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, to Aaron Rodgers, persona, I hate to use the word ego. Man, you don't want to be that quarterback like Drew Brees. Those guys look so old, like they aged 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're not going to the playoffs, so the veteran quarterback is going to sit out. He'll come back next year. He's going to stand there and hold a clipboard and have a winter cap on and whisper into the young man's ears. That looks horrible. And I think these guys think about their image that way. But Aaron Rodgers is here to play. He wants every opportunity to play. They have a slight chance. The Vikings and other teams would have to totally collapse over the next 5 weeks. But if it's not a cracked rib, if it's just bruised and they can shoot it up and put on maybe an extra pad or something like that, and he wants to trot out there and own the Bears again at Soldier Field, which the fans would like.
Right.
The fans that have paid money for this game, they want to see Aaron Rodgers on the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Matt LaFleur was asked, he said, don't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers trots out there at Soldier Field on Sunday.
This is one of the toughest dudes I've ever been around. So I don't ever for 1 second question his toughness, his desire to be out there, his desire to compete. Matter of fact, he apologized to me, and I'm like, don't ever apologize to me. Like, I'll never question that. This guy is the ultimate competitor.
Let's do this. We're going to step out, take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll pick up where we left off. Mike Clemens joining us on the hotline. A lot to get to as we break down what happened yesterday, we'll say, and kind of do that. So stick around. We got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. It's coming up, and it's coming up right after this.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
You know, we moved the football basically most of the night against a good defense. I think we only had like 40 or 50 plays or something. They had over 70, so that was obviously a big difference. But we put up 33 points and battled against the number one seed. I think there's a lot to feel good about. Obviously, defense is going to, not feel great about some of those things. And obviously, I turned the ball over twice, but we put ourselves in position.
There you go. Those are the words of Aaron Rodgers. They were in position. They could have done a little bit of damage. They had a couple of turnovers that were, untimely. And ultimately, the defense just simply couldn't get the job done. I mean, there was just a combination of things. Joining us on the hotline, our buddy Mike Clemens is here. So, Mike, the defense, we'll go back to that. Because as much as we talk about the offense and the fact that they showed some fight and they were actually able to put up some points, the defense stunk. I mean, to give up that many rushing yards, you almost have to try to do it. They were that bad.
There are so many things flying around for me today regarding the defense. And I think it starts with watching the Colts hold the Eagles at Lucas Oil Stadium for 3.5 quarters last week. And Matt Ryan kept the ball on the Colts side with pretty good Jonathan Taylor runs, but also short passes, dinking and dunking, and accurate. And there were some times where Matt Ryan was under pressure from that tough Eagles front, but he still was able to get the ball off on time at 38 years old. It's just, he was like a second chapter to his career. And it wasn't until toward the very end of the game, Jalen Hurts ran on a couple of short quarterback sneaks on 4th down, which I just find so weird that you're using your quarterback like a fullback when you're 1 yard away. But then he started running with the football, and it ended up making the difference. So the point is that for 3.5 quarters, the Colts had a tape that said, look, if you can cover 4 guys and put 1 or 2 on contain, Jalen Hurts is not going to come out of there. And no way did Joe Barry's scheme resemble that. And you had a blueprint for it. And you don't have the defensive line that the Commanders had the week before, who beat the Eagles. And the Eagles suffered some injuries in that game, which also set them back. But the Eagles come back and score the most points of the season on Joe Barry's defense. Mm-hmm. The Eagles have been winning games 2017, 23-17. They put up 40 last night.
Right.
And Jalen Hurts is now in the record books. Listen to what a motivational guy that the young quarterback is for the Eagles.
My message to the team, if we're being honest, was, we invest so much time into this. You work so hard for this. You miss time with family. You work late nights and early mornings. You put so much time into this. So, go out there and give it your all. Go out here and play together. Appreciate this time we have to play this game and, show some gratitude towards it by playing to the standard.
Yeah, I get it. It was just an awful performance. I don't know how else to put it. It was just a bad tackling performance. It was the defense couldn't stop anybody. It was, when you talk about Jalen Hurts, I mean, good God, he was running through not only big holes, but running past even like Quay Walker, who was his spy. He was just basically saying, no, you're not going to bring me down. I mean, what a night for Jalen Hurts, man.
He had over 100 yards in the first quarter. He finished the night, Jalen Hurts, with 158 yards in a city that's invented the running quarterback like that. Randall Cunningham, 30 years ago, who played with Reggie White. and Donovan McNabb, or even when they brought in Michael Vick. They've always had that with the Eagles, ahead of the Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, the current era, Justin Fields now in Chicago. And so Jalen talked about what it's like to now know that you have got more rushing yards in a game in the franchise history, and the Eagles have been around a long time, and guys like Randall Cunningham, Michael Vick, or even Donovan McNabb.
I have a great deal of respect for those guys, the guys that have come before me, Randall, Mike, McNabb, and just the way they played the game. I always talk about how I admire the way they played the game, and to be thrusted into that category and different things, it's a blessing. It's a blessing, and it's a lot of hard work going into it. I have a ton of respect for them and their support. They don't even know how they've affected me, impacted me in my time here, and it's an understatement to say how much I appreciate them, because I do, and they've guided me in more ways than they don't even know. So I appreciate them, and I appreciate this team.
So, with all the rushing yards that he put up last night, Mike, if I'm the Packers, what do you look at as far as, you try to stop Jalen Hurts, you were putting guys on the line, you're running 4 down linemen, you're putting spies on them. I know Matt LaFleur had talked about counting arm tackles or broken tackles at halftime. There's like 15 of them already. I mean, this is one of those things where you can blame scheme and such, but were these guys just not prepared because I know Collinsworth even stated it, like, did they realize Jalen Hurts can run the football?
Yeah, well, yeah. And he ended up going for the 158, setting that franchise record. Now, that's a good question. And so Nick Sirianni was asked, was this part of your game plan? Did you see something in Green Bay's defense from their previous games, like maybe against the Bills, that said, hey, let Jalen run all night?
No, we didn't. We obviously got a game plan going in to see what we're going to do, and that's why you plan all week. That's why you go through it. Those plays that he makes off schedule, those are bonuses, right? And so you still have your plan that you want to get to and that you want to do, and so it just kind of happened that he had some big yards off schedule, and that's what Jalen does. That's where he's special, really special, is he can make those plays with his feet. To be in a city like this with the quarterback history that this city has, it's in that he set a record for most yards by a quarterback rushing. It's pretty special. That's some unbelievable names that he's following there.
Kind of felt bad for those guys, all those guys on defense getting hurt while you're running your offensive plays. Feel bad for them?
Hey, I no comment.
Sirianni, Mike, on one hand, you can say Jalen Hurts had a tremendous night, and he did. But I guess if I'm Nick Sirianni, I'm going into the postseason going, man, my defense is starting to give up some points.
That was in reference to Isaiah McDuffie. Did it look like he was flopping when he went down? I thought maybe he had a concussion. And he got up after the play, and he's walking back toward the center of the field and then in the replay showed him just kind of stumble down.
Right.
Like, I didn't think that Joe Barry's defense was smart enough sometimes to do that. They flop, man. Start flopping to change the momentum.
Right.
Something. But I thought they were looking at him on the sidelines that maybe he had a concussion. He did return back to the game. Let's face it, too. Joe Barry's defense is really shorthanded right now. And this happens in the NFL. But you've lost Rashawn Gary. You've lost your speedy Eric Stokes. And now you've got Rasul Douglas out there against, Quez, who just burned him on that one touchdown play last night. Darnell Savage goes out early with a foot injury, but Savage he's been a problem all year. And, why don't some people suggest that maybe you should move Rasul Douglas back to safety? Keyshawn Nixon and Rudy Ford, smaller guys, but they're playing with heart. They're flying all over the field. The Eagles had a couple of picks off of Aaron Rodgers. Josiah Scott got that tipped pass. And then this undrafted guy, first undrafted guy to ever intercept Aaron Rodgers in his career, this Eric Blankenship from mid-Tennessee, who kind of was a walk-on for the Eagles, got that second pick when he was trying to throw to the tight end. And so Nick Sirianni was asked how he thought the Eagles defense played against Green Bay, especially in the first half of the game.
we're able to create some turnovers, which was really big, in the first half. And we were able to hit Aaron Rodgers, and we needed to because he's an unbelievable player. He's an outstanding football player. And so we needed to be able to hit him and get to the quarterback because we know we have the guys too. What I was disappointed in the first half is that the offense and the special teams put the defense in some short situations. One was my fault. We didn't get it on fourth down, and I went for it. And then the other one, we had a fumble. And so, and then the special teams one. So all their possessions in the first half, they didn't have to go the long way, and with Aaron Rodgers, I mean, you don't want to give him any short fields. And we gave him 3 and they made us pay for it. And so that was I thought we played much better in the second half, with minus the big play that we gave up to Christian Watson. He can really roll, but it was what I was more upset with. It was the position that we were putting the defense in. Now we got to stop them and create, 4-point plays down there on third down in the red zone. Rodgers made a really good play to Aaron Jones on that scramble. It was 2nd and 20. So he got him out of a bind right there. But that's what I was more disappointed in.
Mike, he talked about the Eagles. Don't forget, I mean, the Packers defense got the stop on fourth down, did get the fumble. Quay Walker, he ran out of gas, but he damn near took it into the end zone. The defense did make a few plays. I mean, you get a big return from Keyshawn Nixon, and the Packers offense at times went backwards, didn't go forward. So, I mean, as much as we want to blame the defense, this was somewhat of a collective opportune missed effort.
If you're trying to make a case for Joe Barry, then you have to say, he's out. These are rookies, man. These are babies he's got out there against, one of the number one offenses in the NFL this year. So not only have you got Quay Walker out there now running the defense and every snap, and obviously he's in there every snap, and he's running all over the field and trying to make all these tackles and trying to figure out, the NFL in his first year. He's got Kingsley Enagbare, playing the role of Rashawn Gary. And doing a pretty good job, I think, at times for a lower draft pick. But, this is what but the thing that drives me nuts about Joe Barry is this. Every time you talk to him and he stands up there for 15, 20-minute press conferences, is you're looking for how he challenges guys. So I tried to make we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I was trying to say, can I get this guy to challenge at least one player, one guy that when they were making the decision at Combine that they were going to move on from Zadarius Smith and his bulging disc, that they said, hey, we got Rashawn Gary, we got Preston Smith, and, Jonathan Garvin. That was from Gutekunst's mouth. So here we are mid-season, and Garvin's like a healthy inactive a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked Joe Barry, what do you need to see from Jonathan Garvin? Now, most of the time, from a Matt LaFleur or a Mike McCarthy or a Dom Capers or anybody, they say, well, he's a young man and he probably needs to work on this part of his game. We'd like to see a little bit more. It's what they're telling the player. And all Joe Barry would say was, well, he's a rotational player for us.
Right.
And all he does is he keeps praising what a dynamic quarterback Jalen Hurts is and what a threat he is. All he does is tell about what a great defensive back Jair Alexander is and Premier. No one ever seems to ever have to improve things. I imagine he does that behind closed doors, but he's losing this defense, Bill. Where's Kenny Clark, man? Where's Kenny Clark right now?
Right.
I'll tell you what, in the meantime, he's watching Miles Sanders rush for 143 yards out of the backfield. And here's what Miles talked about what's next for the Eagles.
We haven't played our best game yet this year, and that's all we're trying to focus on doing each and every week is just play penalty free, mistake free, turnover free, and just really dominate the whole game. That's our goal each and every week. So that's what we're chasing. It's not really, what we did last week. We got to do this. It's just chasing greatness every week, just trying to be dominant as possible.
Well, let's do this. We're going to step out, take a quick break. Mike Clemens on board. We'll wrap things up with Mike on a Monday, the day after a Packers game, Packers loss. Also, don't forget, coming up later on this afternoon, we're going to have coming up tomorrow on the program, you got Luke Fickell being introduced as the new head coach of the Wisconsin Badgers. That is at 4:00 Central Time. We'll carry a lot of that tomorrow. We'll talk about it and get more into that then. But Mike Clemens will wrap it up with us. Coming up next on the Bill Michaels Show.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Cool weather, brisk winds, and a hot deal. Hi, this is Gina Della from Pella. Is your home ready for winter weather? Don't wait. Right now, put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 2 years. When it's cold outside, thanks to Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin, you'll be warm and toasty inside. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin can be installed in as little as a day, with little to no disruption to your family or your home. Plus, you'll get expert advice from our Pella specialists, professional installation by Pella's certified installers, and the excellent service our customers have come to expect. And Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin has products and warranty offers you won't find anywhere else. Don't wait for the heating bills to start piling up. Right now, put no money down, no payments, and no interest for up to 2 years at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. Visit PellaWI.com today.
Expires 11/30/2022. Certain exclusions and restrictions apply. See showroom for details.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Trying to stay ahead in the division and the race for the number 1 seed, but Green Bay trying to climb back in it. From 5 deep, Keyshawn Nixon going to bring it out. Hit it with speed on the right side, and Nixon, good return, still going. Over 50 on the return. He brings it to the 48.
We ain't never bow down. We ain't scared of nobody, you know. Just gotta keep playing football. Hopefully it end up on the win side, but tonight it didn't.
Yeah, where has Keyshawn Nixon been all season long? Holy mackerel. They threw that against the wall, and it certainly is stuck. Hell of a returner. The Packers might have discovered something at least there. Welcome back to the program. as we wrap things up with our buddy Mike Clemens. By the way, he's brought to you by the Bay Motel Green Bay. Quiet, cozy, comfortable, just a mile from Lambeau Field. And it's perfect for a family stay. And at the Bay Family Restaurant, I see them online all the time on Facebook. Different pictures of the different food that they got cooking up, home-style cooking 7 days a week. The Bay Motel, 1301 South Military Avenue in Green Bay. Call them for reservations, 920-494-3441. 920-494-3441, or go online at baymotelgreenbay.com. That is baymotelgreenbay.com. So, Mike, Keyshawn Nixon, man, that guy, he has been impressive as a kick returner.
He's been standing on the sidelines with Aaron Rodgers and Adrian Amos and other veterans saying, why in the hell are they still putting Amari Rodgers out there to have muffed punts?
Right.
Last night, Keyshawn had 5 returns for a total of 172 yards. 172 yards, the longest one being that one you heard just right there, 53 yards. That's a season for what these guys have had for returners for a long time. And he's been sitting on your bench up until they finally released Amari Rodgers the other day. It's ridiculous. And he's also your new nickelback. But in the meantime, you gave up 363 yards of rushing to the Eagles. Their quarterback running all over the field, Miles Sanders, and that sets a Eagles franchise record that goes back to 1948. Matt LaFleur asked about what happened with your run defensive plan.
That's a great question. Certainly, we had a lot of missed tackles. I think we had our guys charted for 15 missed tackles. It's tough to stop anything if you have 15 missed tackles. So, they have a great scheme. They've got great players. We knew this was one of the best offensive lines in the National Football League coming into the game. And when you go out there and you got a great scheme with great players that can go out there and execute, it makes it difficult. And by no means it's hard to look at that number and we got to be better. We got to have a better plan, and we got to go out there and execute better. We got to tackle better, because that can't happen in this league.
It's almost like you could just insert that clip at any game this season, Mike.
So the Packers have got 5 games left, pal, and they're playing a horrible Chicago Bears team with Justin Fields on the Trevor Siemian, the backup quarterback. They thought maybe they could get a passing game under Luke Getsy. He got hurt in warm-ups. Mike White had a great game at quarterback for the Jets. They beat him 31-10. And you ask LaFleur, what do you want to do with these last 5 games?
It is what it is right now. I don't think we can look any further than our next opponent, which is an NFC North opponent, Chicago Bears. And we know that, if Justin Fields is there, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of the same stuff we got tonight. So he's an incredible quarterback as well. So, and a guy that's been tearing up the league the last few weeks in terms of his ability to run and extend plays and create. So just the way my mind works, it's always looking at where you are, staying in the moment, living day to day, trying to do the best job you can, try to put the best plan together for our guys, and then demanding the best out of each individual within our organization.
More, please. You had a couple games like this with run defense with the previous coordinator again tonight. What do you think? What do you think the solution is there with the run defense in these games where it just implodes on you?
Yeah, I think I don't want to comment too quickly without going through and watching the tape and seeing what we're asking of guys. Like I said, we have 15 missed tackles as well. So I think collectively, we got to be a lot better. Every individual on the defense, and it wasn't just the defense. We can't turn the ball over. So bottom line is, you win as a team, you lose as a team. It's got to be better, period.
Okay. Yeah, the question is legit. Look, you've changed coordinators. Your tackling sucks, and the fundamentals of just playing the defense and being an aggressor sucks. And there's not much of an answer. I think, Mike, what you're playing for now is, do you dare say you're trying to just stay out of the basement of the NFC North?
Getting a cool draft pick. I think the bottom line is this for Matt LaFleur. He's on his 3rd special teams coordinator. I think you're good in that department. He's going to be looking for his third defensive coordinator. I don't see how Joe Barry comes back. Maybe he finishes out the season. They're friends. These guys work together in Washington, and L.A. But I mean, really, the most impressive thing I've seen Joe Barry do is recommend restaurants in London. I mean, he was very knowledgeable. I'm not kidding. That's not a joke. He blew me away with his restaurant suggestions in London.
When that's the best thing you've done as a defensive coordinator is go eat, oh boy, no wonder we are where we are. Mike, great stuff as always. Get some sleep, man.
Thank you, Billy. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later. The best thing Joe Barry has done is recommend restaurants in London. That's awesome. It sucks, but it's awesome. Time